Hello everyone, this is Anil. In this video, we'll talk about data certification feature in ServiceNow. So what is data certification? Data certification is a scheduled or on-demand validation of CMDB data. So as part of this process, we can check for accuracy of CMDB data and certify the data. Now, it is essential to understand what information requires verification and how frequently that information has to be verified. That will constitute the verification schedule. A schedule generates checklist for verifying the data. The individuals will answer a set of questions to verify the data. The data can be table or fields in a table. Data certification supports domain separation, but only at the data level. Next, we'll talk about various steps involved in setting up data certification. So the first step is planning. As part of planning, we will try to address few questions depending on which certification schedules and certification audit definitions are configured. The questions are: what information requires certification? What is due date for certification? Who must perform certification? So depending on the answers to these questions, the certification admin, a user with certification admin role, will define certification schedules and certification audit. The next stage in the setting up process is configuring certification filters. So a certification filter is a subset of CIs that need to be certified. Now, as part of the setting up of a certification filter, we use the standard condition builder in ServiceNow and we define the filter. Now, ServiceNow allows you to create versions of this filter so that we know what, if needed, we can revert back to the previous versions of the filter. So basically, versioning is allowed in the filter setup. Next, we'll talk about certification schedule. So once we have the certification filter setup complete, we have to configure the certification schedule. So while configuring the certification schedule, we need to review like what is the frequency of the schedule, what information has to be certified, is the schedule on demand, or is it specified time interval. And from the certification schedule, we can preview the certification tasks which are created. We can also review the certification instances that are generated from the certification schedule. So I'm also going to give a demo on how each of the step is done, in which we will cover in detail like what are the different properties we can configure as part of certification schedule. Then we look at certification audit. The idea behind certification audit is to create a collection of certification schedules that will run at once. So a certification audit will, once it is executed, will have a certification audit instance, and the certification audit instance will contain certification instances which are generated by all the certification schedule executions and the certification tasks which are generated by the certification schedule execution. Then we'll talk about certification task, which is the most essential piece of this whole configuration. So certification task is generated when a certification schedule is executed. The certification task gets assigned to a group and an owner, an individual who is called the certification task owner. The owner will perform the certification tasks. He will verify the record fields, which is tables and fields, record data, and he will review the individual certification elements. So a certification element is a record which is created for each element of each record. So let's say a certification schedule is created for Windows Server table on two fields, one is operating system and OS version. Then for each record in that table that matches the filter condition, you will see two element records, one for OS and one for OS version, right? So basically, depending on number of elements that need to be certified or number of attributes that need to be certified, those many number of element records are created for each record. Next, we have workflows that run in the background for the certification task that will send reminders to task owner and to task owner manager at regular intervals for completion of the certification tasks. The next step is how do we track the certification progress? Uh, so the first one is audit instance. So whenever we have so audit instance helps us track all the audit tasks, audit instances which are certification tasks which are created as part of an audit execution. We can track at the certification task level the progress in terms of how many elements are certified and how many elements are yet to be certified, and how many records are certified and how many records are yet to be certified. And we can track at the execution at the certification instance level where how many certification tasks are certified. And we can also track at the group manager level and assignee manager level. So the group manager is the manager of the group to which the certification task is assigned. So we can track how many open certification tasks are present for a given group manager. And similarly, we can also track at the assignee manager level. So who is the manager of the task owner? So all this information is available on the data certification overview dashboard. The next step is how do we fulfill the certification tasks. So the first step is to review the certification fields and the display fields. So this will appear in a tabular form. Sorry, this will appear in a tabular format as part of the certification element records. So the certification task owner will review the certification fields and the display fields and then make a decision whether he can certify or he want to reject the certification element record. He can also add comments justifying his action, as in why he has certified versus why he has rejected, and then he can complete the review. In case he needs support or if he wants the manager to take action, then he can escalate the task, and then that will notify the assignee manager, and also the assignee manager is made as the new assignee of the certification task. The next is notifications. The task assignee gets notified, the task group gets notified, task assignee manager gets notified as well whenever the escalation happens. The next step is how do we track the performance. Data certification overview dashboard, which is available to roles, certification, certification admin and admin, can view a set of reports on the dashboard which will help us track the certification progress. Next, we'll look at the hierarchy of various records which are generated as part of the data certification process. The first one is certification audit. So this contains certification schedules CS1, CS2 and CSN, right? So now each certification schedule can generate one or multiple tasks, and all these are grouped together into one certification instance, as you can see here, right? So similarly, uh, you can see that there is, for one more execution of a certification schedule, there is certification tasks which are generated, which are grouped under one certification instance, and you can see that all these are grouped under one certification audit instance, CAI, right? And in the hierarchy, if we scroll down further, we can see that each certification tasks will have certification elements, which basically contain the display fields and the certification fields that need to be reviewed before the task owner can certify an element. Now the progress can be tracked at certification element level, at certification task level, at certification instance level, and at certification audit instance level. Next we'll look at how the setup is done. Right, the first stage, as we discussed earlier, is to set up the certification filter. Certification filter will have the following configuration to be done. The first one is CI class, and then the conditions that will filter the records in the CI class. For example, if you want the CI class to be Windows Server, and if you want uh, the records for which Windows Server operating system is populated, then we can create a condition that says Windows Server and operating system is not empty as a filter. Right, that will create the certification filter. Once we have the certification filter in place, the next step is to configure a certification schedule. So in the certification schedule, we will reference the certification filter, and then we will configure display fields and certification fields. One note here is these two cannot be same, right? Which means I cannot have the same field as display field and certification field because they appear in a tabular format. So if you have the same field in both places, then you will see same column twice, which won't make sense. And then next we have the assignment type, which helps us configure how the tasks should get assigned and to whom should it get assigned. So it can be assigned to a user field, a group field on the record, on the CI record, or it can be also assigned to a specific user or specific group. Basically here we are hard coding it, and here we are making it more as a configuration. I think one thing to bear in mind here is uh, certification filter can be created, or the whole certification process is not restricted only to CMDB. It can be configured for any field and any table. That's something which you need to bear in mind. Next we can configure days to complete, which tells how many days does the certifier have to complete the certification. And then we have the task description. So once the task is generated, what description should it contain? Then we have the instructions, which basically tells the step-by-step instructions to the task owner so that he can successfully complete the task. And then the execution run, which basically tells on demand, daily, monthly, business calendar start, business calendar end, or only once or periodically. So these are the various options which are available for execution of the certification schedule. Now once the certification schedule is triggered, then it creates a certification task. A certification task will show you the percentage completion of the task, which basically shows you how many certification elements are complete. So here, once you look at the certification task, you can see that there is an option where you can add comments while you are certifying a specific element. So you can select the CIs and elements you want to certify, right? You can select, you can escalate if you want, you can review uh, multiple or all records at once. You can view the certification list. Uh, you can reset certification to pending. So in case you want to reset all the certification elements to pending, then you can do that. So this generally happens when you think that the certification was done for some of the records, but then something has changed and you want to restart the process for the same task. Then you can do this reset certification to pending. The other useful feature is which is available on the certification task is clean up invalid elements. So this generally is used when some of the records or some of the attributes of the record become invalid. For example, if some records got deleted due to some reason, or if some record became non-operational due to some reason, because of which they are no more in scope of the certification, then when you click on this UI action, clean up invalid elements, it will try to update the list of certification elements, and then it will recalculate the progress at the certification task level and at certification instance level. So this completes the background information that is required in order to configure data certification. Now we'll look at a demo of how it is done in ServiceNow. So the first step is to configure the plugin. So let's go to plugins. and try to configure the plugin. So this is the plugin that needs to be configured, which is data certification. Right? It's already installed on my instance. So once you install this data certification plugin, you will see a application menu and modules underneath that. So this is the application menu and the modules underneath that. Right, this one. So now if you see here, the first module is overview module. So if you click on that, it takes you to a dashboard which gives you a summary of the overall data certification process on the instance. I will spend like few minutes and understand what information is available here. So the first widget is certification instances, which basically shows you the various certification instances which got triggered by certification schedules. And as you can see here, there is an instance name, certification schedule that has triggered this instance, and the percentage completion, when it is created, and what date it is completed. By what date it has to be completed, right? Complete by will tell you by what it has to be completed. So this is always a future date, unless it's an overdue certification. And then if you drill down, you will see the tasks which are part of the certification instance, right? And even here you can see the certification tasks number, state of the task, the task owner, and the task short description, and the completion percentage, as you can see here. And then next you can see upcoming schedules. So this tells you like when the next execution of the schedule is going to is for, right? And then here you see certification progress report, where it shows you like a grouping based on the assigned to, and what are the tasks which are available, and what is the state of the task, and to whom it is assigned, and the percentage completion, and so on. And then we have a widget that shows certification task completion report, which basically shows you the tasks which are completed. And on the right side you will see hierarchical roll-up. Here you can see the tasks based on the manager, the task owner manager. So you can see that there are two managers, and this shows the number of tasks assigned to the owners who report to these managers, right? And also it shows you the work in progress and the close complete count. And then we also see the functional roll-up, which this basically is the manager of the group to which the tasks are assigned. Again, as you can see, the breakdown is based on the state of the tasks. So work in progress, close complete. And here we can see the aging tasks, as in, so how old is the age of the task. Depending on that, this aging report gets displayed. So this basically helps us track the progress of the certification tasks. And then there's also one more widget called exceptions to date, which means if for some reason a certification task is not complete, then it shows you why. So let's try to generate some data in the widget, right? So I'll open one of the certification instances and certification tasks, and then provide a comment here and reject it. Operating system is empty. I'll provide this comment. I'll check this and I'll fail the certification task. Right, so now I have failed it, and now if I come back here to the dashboard, I should see the, okay, let me refresh this. Right, so now I can see that this is failed, and it's saying operating system is empty. That's why it's failed, right? Because that's what I've done here. So that's how you'll see the exceptions also here, right? So basically this is like one place where the three rules, certification rule, certification admin, and admin user can go and review the progress of the data certification process. Okay, so let's look at the configuration. Just close it here. So let's see how do we start the setup. The first step, as we discussed, is to create a certification filter, right? So I'll start with that. So I'll create I'll go to certification filters and click on new, and demo certification filter Windows. um, let's just say operating system. I'll then I'll say filter. Just make a note of this, copy that. So here that again, as I mentioned, the table gives you an option to select which table you want the certification filter to be applied to. So because we are talking about Windows servers, I can just select Windows here, and that should help me get the right filter in place. And then here, now this filter condition is very critical, because this drives what tasks get generated and what elements will be part of the task. So here I'm going to mention let's say operational status is operational, as operational, right? And then I save this record. Excuse me. Excuse me. So now I can see the number of records which will be selected or filtered as by this filter, right? So now the first step is complete. The next step is to create a certification schedule. So for that, I will again start from here. I can click on new, and that creates a new schedule. uh, and I already copied the text, so I'll just give that here. I'll name the schedule, and the filter is this one here. uh, hmm, okay, so here, okay, I just have to save this right. Yeah, this one here. So that's a filter, and you see that the table name is automatically selected based on the filter, but you can always change it, right? The display fields, now, okay, so just to give a little background, right? So CMDB data can be populated by different data sources. So let's say I want to review the data that is populated by discovery, for example. Then I'll give discovery source as my display field, name as my display field, and maybe the most recent discovery as my display field, so that the relevant information is available uh, for the certifier to certify the data. And then certification fields are operating system and OS version. Those two fields I want them to certify, right? Select them. But yeah, and as I mentioned, like you cannot have same field in both places, so I'll just prove that by selecting that here. And then once we save it, you get the validation that it is not, you cannot have same field in both the set of fields. And next we have the assignment type. It can be user field. Let's say if I select user field, then I have to select like which field in the form should it get assigned to, right? So if you have a uh, if you have this already correctly populated on the form, then you can give that here, right? It depends on the process of how the CMDB data gets updated. You can also give a group field, which again can be one of the group fields, right? For example, a pro group, assignment group, or managed by group, supported group, right? Or it can be a hard-coded value as well, right? So for demo purpose, I'll just select specific group as service task, and then days to complete 10 days, excuse me. And then here I'll provide the task description, demo task, and then instructions. Please review the operating system OS version, and certify the element. select the most recent discovery and the discovery source to see which system has updated this information. So this can be your sorry, this can be the first instruction, and then the second instruction is to review the fields and then certify the element. So now here the run option tells you like how you want to run it, daily, weekly, monthly. I'll select daily, right? Because if my discovery schedule is running daily, then I want this to be done daily, and then I submit it, right? So as I mentioned, right, there's a validation that runs on submission, which checks the display fields and certification fields. So both cannot be the same uh, value, so that's where it has failed at. So go back and okay, so that's the validation, right? I'll just open the record which I've just created to save the time of recreating it. So this is what I've created. I'll just change the name to demo, but the filter is all like similar filter which I have created before this. Okay, save this now. So now the next stage is to create the certification tasks. So for this we need to execute the schedule. Just close it. Okay, so click on execute now, and that executes the schedule. So when the schedule is executed, it will trigger a certification instance and a certification task, as you can see here. So going back to the hierarchy, we can see that a certification schedule will have a task and an instance. So that's what happened here. Sorry. So you can see that here. And now you can open the instance record to see all the tasks which are generated. At the same time, you can see that here as well. So now here you can see the certification instance. It has a number, a percentage complete, and so on. The status initially work in progress. It gives you the instructions as well. And here you have the tasks for the certification instance. So if you open that, here you can see the assign to assignment group. The assignment group comes from the certification schedule. I can assign it to a specific user from the group, right? So David Lou, for example, save it. And then here you have the option. So now as David Lou, you can now certify the elements. So as you can see here, this one is valid. The operating system is correct. So I select the element. I have checked this one, all good. So I'll just say operating system is correct, hence certify the element, right? I can give a meaningful comment, right? Click on this certify checked elements link button, and now that completes it, and it goes away from the list, right? The list will come down to 32. Let's try one more. So this one, the moment you check it here, it automatically checks this and this, as you can see here. And now you gain a comment, give a test comment, and then you can click on this, and then it goes away from the list. The list now has to become 31. And you can also reject if you want, right? For example, I check this one, I'll say rejecting the element because OS is empty. So you can reject as well. So when you reject it, you click on this one here, fail certification option, and then it fails it, right? So that's how you do it. And now if you go back to the dashboard, you can see the progress. Just refresh it. So you should see one more entry here for certification instance, and we can see that this is 9% complete, and then one task for David Lowe, which is 9% complete. And then now this also you'll see like two more entries which have come up, which is failed because operating system is empty. Now you're seeing two entries here because one entry will represent one element, so that's why you're seeing two entries here. So because we have two attributes, that's why you're seeing two entries there. If you only have one, you will only see one entry, right? Yeah. So let's open each of them to take you back to the same certification task, right? Yeah, and yeah, that's how you do it. Great. So that's the process to be followed, right, in order to certify. And you can also see the audit of each certification that is done, right? For example, if I go here, you can also, of course, go back to the original record, the CI record from this, and you can also see the certification. Okay, right. So let's, yeah. So basically, that's basically how you navigate and stuff, right? Sorry. Yeah, and here you can. Let's quickly review some more links here, right? So this is all tasks. Basically, you can see all the certification tasks, which we also saw from dashboard, and then instances, which is my schedule instances, right? Certification instances, and then audit results. I think this is essential, right? This helps you understand like how the audit was performed. So as I was saying here, right? So if you see here, like for OS version, you have the basically for each element you will see one entry. So you see one for so this OS version. So because you have 33 records, it's showing twice of them, twice number of records, right? So let's look at one set of records, and then if you see here, like if I sort them, you can see that they show matching on the element. Then you will see 33 records for OS, and similarly if I go back here, and then if I filter out, then you should see 33 records for OS version, right? And then the comments has been pushed here, and then the reviewed the comments have come here, and then the original value, the certified value, all that information is available here, right? So what is the original value, what is the certified value, right? So basically this helps you track how the certification is being done, and if the data changes, then you can always find out what data has been certified, and if something has changed, then what has caused the change, right? So that's how you certify the data. This completes the demo on data certification. Thank you for watching.